and dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.tv. Thank you for joining me this evening. We're going to get into various topics tonight. Have one from the Foundation for Economic Education, decentralization, why dumb networks are better, the smart choices and innovation at the edge. Going to get into something that kind of goes along with that, but in a different path. SpaceX is making a microsatellite internet network to decentralize the web. But one of the first topics, there's other topics we will be getting into, but I kind of want to start off with looking at something that I always bring to attention is the youth here in America and parental rights and things that are going on that really attack at a family level and are directly attacking the rights of the people to choose what type of lifestyle they would want to live and what goes in their own bodies, and also how the state likes to come in and claim. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Said barely. Okay, let's see if that helps out there. I think one of the volume things got knocked around over here. Hopefully you can hear me better now. Okay, but I want to get into the fact that the state can come in and claim authority over a family and the choices that families make with their children. Whether it be homeschooling, vaccination, what the parents have done in their past, whether that, if they smoked any marijuana. It's one of those things that it's really starting to affect families, I think more than in the past. So we'll go ahead and get into something that We Are Change put out. And he was at one of the national conventions put on by students. I believe it's Students for Liberty, and he talks with CPS whistleblower Carlos Morales about medical kidnapping by the state. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this.
This is Gradowski of WeAreChange.org here at the International Students for Liberty 2015 conference. I'm joined by our good friend Carlos Morales. Now, if you don't know Carlos, you haven't been on our YouTube channel, which is not good. But Carlos is actually a whistleblower. He was working for the CPS and exposed many corrupt, illegal activities by that state-run institution. Now, I've been talking to Carlos. He's been doing a lot of research, a lot of homework. He also has written a book, but a lot of important information that Carlos revealed has been added upon because he's been studying specifically medical kidnapping. Now, Carlos, what is medical kidnapping?
Well, first, thanks for having me on your show. You know, the book came out recently. It's called Legally Kidnapped, The Case Against Child Protective Services, found at legallykidnapped.net. Now, the idea of medical kidnapping is essentially the catastrophic, epic in proportion, terrible actions committed by hospitals right now of calling Child Protective Services every single time a parent is deciding to try and get a second opinion for rare health disorders. As a result, Child Protective Services comes in, states that they have things like Munchausen's by proxy, saying that the parent is negligent, and then taking that child out of the parent's hands and placing them in the hands of foster homes.
Now, Carlos, you also broke the story of how CPS gets paid, and there's an incentive to take away children away from their parents. But is there any example that you researched or you found out with a particular person that is really shocking or that really just blows your mind with medical kidnapping?
Now, as far as the statistics of medical kidnapping, it's getting harder and harder to understand only because of the fact that they keep so much of the information secretive. Now, a huge problem, though, is actually a result of the Medicaid Act. So essentially, if you have a child with a rare disorder and the parent states, well, I can't afford to take care of that particular issue right now, or I don't want to go through the means that you are suggesting us to do, then the foster homes or the state can then take over the rights of the child, and everything is paid for by Medicaid, and they continue to bill and bill and bill and bill.
So is that a part? Did that change because of Obamacare?
Obamacare actually didn't have that much to do with it. The recent cases of medical kidnapping may have been going on for longer than we thought. It's just a result of more media coverage that this is actually starting to come out more.
Now, I know the research and just finding everything about the specific issue has been extremely difficult. Can you tell us about your research process and some of the revelations that you found out?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with some of the individuals from Health Impact News, medicallykidnapped.com, because those individuals are working incredibly hard to talk to parents who are having to deal with CPS, including the woman rather recently who lost the rights to her 17-year-old child because that child did not want to get chemo. A 17-year-old, the fact that we're even using the term child is absolutely ridiculous. That is an adult, and if they choose to want to not use chemo or to use chemo, that is their call. Instead, right now, that person is stuck in a mental health facility over the course of the last 3 months, and it's disgusting. How is taking away someone's freedom healthy for them?
No, the stories are just insane, especially the ones that you were revealing to us beforehand. What key important elements do people need to understand when it comes to medical kidnapping?
Well, just keep in mind the fact that at any point, Child Protective Services can be called on you. And it can be for a massive amount of things, including, which I saw in effect, individuals who admitted to their health practitioners that they had used marijuana at some point. Those health practitioners then go ahead and call Child Protective Services and they end up getting their kid removed. So keep more of that information kind of secretive if you don't trust the individuals who you're dealing with. Yeah. And that goes for social media, that goes for everything. I understand the marijuana advocacy movement, but going out and posting pictures of yourself smoking weed while your baby's behind you might not be a very good idea.
Yeah, there's one particular case in Texas, and correct me if I'm wrong, the father used to smoke marijuana. There was a raid on his house. They found one joint. They took away the kid, and the kid died in foster care. Yeah. Are there other cases, or do you want to expand on that case? And what other important information do you want to add to just this one particular topic?
Well, when it comes to the marijuana use thing, as I brought up on your show before, only 20% of removals from parents into foster homes are for physical or sexual abuse. A vast majority of cases are for drug use, and a huge chunk of that is for marijuana use. The amount of children who have been taken from parents and due to the fact they admitted to using marijuana, and then having those children then raped in foster home is absolutely staggering. And I hope for the betterment of individuals to recognize the fact that Child Protective Services is not an agency which helps out children, but in fact hurts them, and they've done it time and time and time again.
Yeah, and in the last video we did, you went over in great detail about how horrible the whole foster care system is and how it put kids in danger instead of actually protecting them. The first video we did, these are all videos that are going to be in the description below so you could actually watch. The first video, you exposed the blatant corruption within the whole entire CPS system that you work for. Now, Carlos has also been working with people one-on-one, individually, helping them deal with this kind of state authority that has been coming into people's lives and has been sometimes doing a lot of wrongs. Any other piece of research that you want to put out there that to you sticks out on all the extensive work that you have been doing on this very key important topic?
Well, it was actually doing your show that kind of inspired me to end up writing a book on the subject, which again can be found on legallykidnapped.net, that explains exactly how to deal with Child Protective Service investigators if they come to your home to try and take away your children. And it has already helped hundreds and hundreds of families to prevent children from going into foster homes. So I duly recommend going to that first. If there's information in there that did not help you, if you went through it and everything else, it didn't help, then of course you can message me, go through Child Protective Services Victim Support, which can be found online as well.
And then with medical kidnapping, so just to put everything in together, it's specifically when people ask for a second opinion. Are there any other instances when this happens?
Okay, there's been quite a few other altercations in which this has occurred, including instances in which people were skeptical of things like vaccinations. When parents admitted to the use of marijuana, when they were drug tested, say 2 months into a pregnancy, not realizing the fact that they used weed, say 8 weeks ago, then it comes out in the test that they tested positive, and those children were then removed from those homes where they were stuck, and those children ended up getting placed in foster homes where they're 7 to 8 times more likely to be physically or sexually abused, 6 times more likely to be placed in psychotropic drugs, and 6 times more likely to die than if they stayed in an abusive household. Yeah. This is epically terrible. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of people aren't acknowledging what is going on because it is attacking and hitting up minority groups and those who are impoverished. That's why 40% of foster homes are made up of black children, even though they only make up 8 to 10% of the U.S. population as a whole. This is just an extension of a program which is designed to destroy the family.
Wow. Staggering facts. And with the changing drug laws within the United States, is it having an impact on this kind of medical kidnapping?
With the staggering, can you say that again?
With states like Colorado legalizing marijuana, has this affected medical kidnapping in any way, shape, or form, or had no impact?
Well, actually, when it comes to the states like Colorado or states of California, as I mentioned before, even if it's legal, technically, they're still going after these families. And it makes it even worse in places where you have medical marijuana licenses, because then they go and attack those families who have those licenses. It's almost like a license for Child Protective Services to come and harass and bombard you. Because since it's still federally illegal within our own society, marijuana is seen as being somehow worse than alcohol, which blows my mind because both of us have the statistics. Alcohol is much worse for any individual than marijuana.
Thank you, Carlos, for those staggering facts. Is there anything else you want to expand on or talk about?
Again, just keep in mind the fact that Child Protective Services is a domestic terrorist agency which has been set on destroying families and children across the United States. Never call CPS if you're dealing with individuals who may or may not be using drugs. Don't call them in those particular cases. Be aware of the problem and try to defend yourself as best as you can.
Yes. And in the previous videos, we also went through solutions with Carlos. Carlos, thank you so much for all those staggering facts, all your research, your book, and also helping and volunteering people who need help in these situations for free many of the times. Where can people find you? Where can people buy your book? Where can people support you?
Yeah, again, the book is available on Amazon right now. You can go and just type in Legally Kidnapped, the Case Against Child Protective Services, or go to legallykidnapped.net. I also have another website called cpsvictimsupport.com.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to click the like button. Don't forget to check out Carlos. He has a lot of great information, staggering facts that everyone needs to know.
Okay, We Are Change on YouTube, wearechange.org. He puts out a lot of great information. That's just one of the many um, clips he has. So again, We Are Change on YouTube, wearechange.org. And that was Luke Radowski. And one thing that is really relevant right now um, is something that they've been pushing real hard lately. And it was one thing mentioned in this, and it's the vaccination. And you have places like California that want to go after and take away the exemptions, basically, for parents to not get their kids vaccinated. Um, and again, people that question that in certain places have been targeted by CPS for not vaccinating their children, or even newborns basically have been held from their parents for reasons, whether it be vaccination or other reasons, because the parents are trying to choose what they believe is best for their child. And so-called experts, and I say so-called experts because they are not experts. There is no such thing as an expert. Um, you can claim better informed, but better informed on what basis is, they're better informed on the journals that they read, that, how many pharmaceutical companies are behind half of these you never know. Or is it someone that looks at, other information that might persuade them a different direction? Um, I don't know what expert means in this case, but they are attacking families over it. And I came across this Newsmax article about Ben Carson, and it amazes me when you have these so-called libertarian Tea Partists that are cheering for Ben Carson. And I'll get into a few things to really just we'll see how, for your rights Ben Carson really is. This Newsmax article, Ben Carson, no one has right to refuse mandatory vaccinations. This by Kathy Burke, retired pediatric neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson, a possible Republican presidential candidate, is weighing in on the contentious issue of mandatory vaccinations, asserting people shouldn't be allowed to refuse shots on religious or philosophical grounds. Although I strongly believe in individual rights and the rights of parents to raise their children as they see fit, I also recognize that public health and public safety are extremely important in our society. Well, then if you believe the public good is always going to outweigh the individual rights of a person, then no, you don't believe in individual rights. That's what individual rights are. But again, quote, although I strongly believe in individuals' rights and the rights of parents to raise their children as they see fit, I also recognize that public health and public safety are extremely important in our society, Carson said in a statement released to The Hill and BuzzFeed News. Certain communicable diseases have been largely eradicated by immunization policies in this country, and we should not allow those diseases to return by foregoing safe immunization programs for philosophical, religious, or other reasons when we have the means to eradicate them, unquote. Well, this sentence, or that that quote right there, that paragraph, um, it's not concrete that immunization policies in this country have, um, contributed to the eradication. Well, if it's been eradicated, then it wouldn't be coming back. So, therefore, it's not eradicated. Um, like, let's say the whole measles outbreak, 170 people out of how many millions? Um, it it's one of those things that things like the polio vaccine. There's a lot of information out there that says that, well, the vaccines weren't what contributed to polio going away. It was already on the decline. And you can look up that information yourself. It's one of those things that the evidence is controversy or controversial. It's something that there is no concrete facts to this because people are manipulating the facts. And when journals and all these things have studies that come from pharmaceutical companies or studies that are initiated by pharmaceutical companies, you can't be concrete on that evidence. And I think when there's more evidence that comes out that is contrary to what those journals say, that we should take a very thorough look at things like that. But I'm going to return this article here. It says, but he added, quote, obviously there are exceptional situations to virtually everything, and we must have a mechanism whereby those can be heard. Carson's comments came the same day two other possible GOP presidential contenders took on the issue, and amid an outbreak of more than 100 cases of measles affecting 14 states. During a trip to London, New Jersey, Republican Governor Chris Christie said parents need to have some measure of choice in deciding whether to vaccinate their children. But he then promptly clarified his position once the issue began grabbing national headlines in the United States. To be clear, the governor believes vaccines are an important public health protection, and with a disease like measles, there is no question kids should be vaccinated. Christie's office said in a statement, at the same time, different states require different degrees of vaccination, which is why he was calling for balance in which one's government should mandate. Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul, however, declared the decision whether to vaccinate one child is a matter of personal liberty, saying most shots should be voluntary. The state doesn't own your child, Paul said in an interview with CNBC's Closing Bell. Parents own the children, and it's an issue of freedom and public health. Paul also said he's heard of cases where children were left with profound mental disorders after being vaccinated. Some opponents of child vaccination have claimed that there are links between vaccines and autism, though the assertion has been discredited in the medical community, the Hill reports. That's out of Newsmax. Well, let's look at some of the people that have discredited a link between vaccines and autism. Let's look at these people. Like Autism Speaks. Like I explained on a previous broadcast, Autism Speaks was given all this gratitude to, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Bill Gates. And that's the same foundation that is involved in vaccine programs and GMOs. So I, a conflict of interest, maybe. You know, the people coming out that are saying there's no link between autism and vaccines all have, something to gain from it. They're all involved in it. And then you have the doctors, or the so-called doctors like Ben Carson, that come out and talk about, the says here again, quote, certain communicable diseases have been largely eradicated by immunization policies in this country, and we should not allow those diseases to return by foregoing safe immunization programs for uh, philosophical, religious, or other reasons when we have the means to eradicate them. But this is not proven. And the information that, I've seen has shown that, well, a lot of times these vaccines are always introduced after there has been some type of small outbreak or large outbreak, and they've already went on the decline because the people already got it for the most part. And then it seems that if you look at a lot of the charts, that there's cases where it seems to plateau after the vaccines are introduced. Instead of keep dropping off sharply, they start dropping off at a slower rate. They still drop off, but they drop off at a slower rate. Well, if so many people get it and the others don't, well, maybe it's just a matter of time. And I had another article. I'll get back to Ben Carson, but let me find this other article. It was something that related to this, and I hope I can find it. It had to do with vaccines. I probably lost this article. I can't seem to find it now. I kind of want to go over it really bad because it definitely related. Okay, here. I finally found it. I think. Maybe not. There's a whole bunch of talk about people that are not vaccinated for measles urged to stay away from Disneyland. And, I don't even know what to say to that. Probably stay away because for the simple fact that that's somewhere that you probably are more likely But, we take those risks every day. But the article I seen was another one that was saying that vaccinated people should actually stay away from unvaccinated people. And it wasn't that the vaccinated people still might get something. It was talking about the vaccinated people could give the unvaccinated people something. And well, if they didn't have it before and they got vaccinated for it and that's supposed to stop them from getting it, then right after they get vaccinated, they shouldn't go around unvaccinated. What? Does that make any sense? And I wish I could find the article, but they flooded all of the web searches that I look at with the exact same article from every news site, which is people not vaccinated told to stay away from Disneyland. Or people not vaccinated for measles urged to stay away from Disneyland. But, it does come down to personal liberty. And it doesn't seem like Ben Carson really believes in Well, I believe in personal liberty, except when I don't. Kind of, a little counterproductive, maybe? I don't know. But if that's not the only thing to come out of Ben Carson's mouth, we have one here that's been posted at benswan.com. Dr. Ben Carson, prisons are proof people choose to be gay. So, if he doesn't dig his own hole, he's going to dig his own hole. Because of these types of remarks bashing on someone else. Well, what happens when it comes out that vaccines are proven 100% that they are the cause of a lot of health issues that we see today, or something to that point, or mental issues, or mental issues for children, cleft lip. I don't know, but let's say that it comes out that. Should we go ahead and bash you? Well, because we keep repeating the cycle and people like you bash other people, it'll probably come down to you getting bashed for your comments. But I think you're probably already going to get bashed by many people that really, truly understand individual liberty and understand that, well, this your personal belief in the way someone should live their life is your personal belief. Bashing on other groups doesn't help anything. But here we go. We'll hear it straight from Ben Carson here.
Same-sex marriage. You have equal protection. It's working its way through the courts. The decisions are getting more and more uniform. But then you have people of faith who say marriage is ours. God says it is a man and a woman. The Bible says, my faith says. Which one wins with Dr. Carson?
Here's what I would do. I would do what the Constitution says. Constitution says civil issues of that nature should be determined at the state level. Why does it say that? Because the judicial system at the state level has to answer to the people.
What if people of a state vote for a law 100-0 that winds up infringing on the rights of a minority, like happened very often with slavery, like many would argue is happening now with people who are gay?
And our Constitution was followed, and we corrected those things.
And isn't that what's happening right now with same-sex marriage? It's being corrected as a form of violation of equal protection.
No, you can't just say because it happened that way this time, this is the same situation. It's not the same situation. Because people have no control over their race, for instance.
You think they have control over their sexuality?
Absolutely.
You think being gay is a choice?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of people who go into prison straight, and when they come out, they're gay. So did something happen while they were in there?
Most
Ask yourself
gay
that
people
question.
never go to prison, and you know there's a whole theory of dominance.
Wait a minute. I said a lot of people who go in, come out. Are you denying that that's true?
I am not denying that that's true, but I am denying that that's as a basis of understanding homosexuality.
If, in fact, that is the case, then it obviously thwarts what you just said.
A lot of people go into jail as a drug addict and they come out as a criminal.
But
does that mean that all drug addicts are criminals?
Here's what's important. Why do gay people want to get married? Because they want to have various rights.
No, they want
property rights.
That's right.
Visitation rights.
They want their commitment to count just like mine and my wife's.
Why can't any two human beings, I don't care what their sexual orientation is, why can't they have the legal right to do those things?
That's what they're fighting for.
Okay, that does not require changing the definition of marriage.
But it would require covering that union as you do others, which is called marriage in our society.
I don't think so.
So there's him trying to explain gay people. I think that just dug him another hole. And if you don't remember, he has also been someone that has attacked gun owners. And there was one where he basically said, well, I want to find it, something about assault rifles shouldn't be in the city. Okay, I think I found it here. And I'm going to go ahead and play this clip here. This first one starts out October 23rd, 2007. So we'll go ahead and play this.
The founding document of this nation, the Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights given to us by our Creator, a.k.a. God. Do they realize that the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag says we are one nation under God? That most courtrooms in the land on the wall, it says, in God we trust. Every coin in our pocket, every bill in our wallet says, in God we trust. So if it's in our founding documents, it's in our pledge, it's in our courts, and it's on our money, but we're not supposed to talk about it, what in the world is that? In medicine, it's called schizophrenia.
We're going to do rapid fire.
Okay.
All right? Second Amendment.
Guns.
And if you couldn't tell already, this was on the Blaze Glenn Beck program. But definitely listen to what he says.
There's a reason for the Second Amendment. People do have the right to have weapons. With this argument that's going on, the way we solve it is we ask, what is each side afraid of, and then we address it that way.
Do I have a right to own a semi-automatic weapon?
It depends on where you live. I think if you live in the midst of a lot of people, and I'm afraid that semi-automatic weapon is going to fall into the hands of a crazy person, I would rather you not have it. If you live out in the country somewhere by yourself, I have no problem.
Is that a government, the federal government, or the local government that can decide that?
I think it'd probably be a local.
We're going to have a shortage of doctors.
We already have a shortage of doctors, and we certainly have a shortage of doctors who are happy, particularly primary care physicians, because they have to spend only 12 to 15 minutes per patient.
Should people be able to have experimental drugs? If I have cancer, I've got 2 months to live anyway. Should I be able to have the experimental drugs?
Well,
the FDA leave me alone?
You certainly should be able to have pain-killing drugs. It depends on what kind of experimental drug you're talking about.
Let's see. Doctors make too much money.
Not if you do it on a per-hour basis.
The rich are greedy and bad.
If we don't have the rich, we all devolve into something that's going to be economically non-viable, because look at all the things that happen because somebody owns a yacht. Look at all the different people who get employed. Look at all the things that have to be manufactured. You know, it's not about envying other people. When I was very
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. But you heard what he said. Well, if you live in the city, you probably, well, yeah, let's see how Chicago's doing. Oh, yep, they're still not doing good. Look at any city that restricts weapons. Well, it never restricts a bad person from getting those type of weapons. They don't care what the law is. The simple fact that we live in this fallacy that, well, if someone does something bad, we can restrict the bad people by telling them they can't do it. Doesn't matter if you tell them they can't have a fully automatic weapon, because guess what? The crimes that those bad people are committing are already illegal. Therefore, if they didn't care about breaking that law, why do they care about breaking the law that they use that weapon with? The law that told them that they were not allowed to have a fully automatic weapon, but because they don't care what the law is, they have one anyways, and they're using it to break the law, which they probably already had that intent before. So, you know, this whole BS illusion that a lot of people have given themselves, that somehow by making a law it's going to stop bad people, but in reality, what does it do? It limits the people that are trying to do good and you know, follow what they're told that they should do. They're trying to be good people, but they don't understand. They're just being played like a fiddle. But they're trying to be good people. They follow the laws. They don't want to be a criminal. And plus, you know, the fear of the monopoly of force called government come crashing down on their parade, and not being able to rely on their community to stand up for them a lot of times too. They try to, you know, follow the law. Well, that might be fine and dandy in some utopia, but utopias are a fallacy too, and what you find out is the criminals don't care, and they carry those type of guns. And even when those type of guns might be hard to find on the streets, let's say they did a mass roundup of guns. Let's say they were able to accomplish this. And even though there are some illegal ones still on the streets or buried somewhere. They're hard to find. Well, where do those criminals go to have power, have control? Well, they go where guns are still easily accessible. They go where they can have power. And where would that be? Government, police forces, military, powerful positions where, well, I don't even have to carry a gun because I got people surrounding me carrying a gun. And I think those people are already there, and that's why they want to continue to attack your rights to have a gun. Well, that gun is unneeded. Who are you to say that it's unneeded? You are part of the government. If you become president, you will have all the security you need. You'll have tanks, troops. Who are you to tell the person they can't have an assault rifle? But this is what you get with Ben Carson. He always claims to be about individual rights, but as you can see, he's not there for your right to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. He's not there for your right. Well, if you live in a city, you should have a semi-automatic weapon. He's definitely not there. According to the clip I played from Ben Swan, he's not there for gays to be looked at as equals, and that prisons are proof people choose to be gay. Well, I don't know if that's a fact or not. This guy is not for individual rights at all. He's such a fake. He has no idea what individual rights mean. That is not someone you want in government. But, you know, we're also talking about a federal level. If he runs for president, which I think is corrupt to the bone in the first place. I have one from the freethoughtproject.com. Supreme Court rules that cops do not need a warrant to search your home. In another devastating blow to freedom, the Supreme Court ruled Tuesday, let me see when this was posted, February 26th. So I missed this earlier. But Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that police don't need a warrant to search your property as long as two occupants disagree on allowing officers to enter at the residence, which they've already done this all the time. You can see it on old cops episodes. If one person gives you permission, then they get it. And I just got some breaking news. U.S. ambassador attacked in South Korea. I'll try to look that up and bring you some more information. But back to this. And the resident who refuses access is then arrested. Police may enter the residence. So basically, if two occupants disagree, the resident who refuses access is then arrested. Police may enter the residence. So you're automatically arrested if you refuse and another occupant says it's okay. Basically is what that's going to end up being. Instead of adhering to the warrant requirement, Ginsburg wrote, today's decision tells the police they may dodge it, never mind ample time to secure the approval of a neutral magistrate. Tuesday's ruling, she added, shrinks the petite size our holding in Georgia versus Randolph. Georgia versus Randolph was a similar case the Supreme Court addressed in 2006, in which a domestic violence suspect would not allow police to enter his home, though his wife did offer police consent. The police ultimately entered the home. The court ruled in the case that the man's refusal while being present in the home should have kept authorities from entering. A physical presence inhabitant's express refusal of consent to a police search of his home is dispositive as to him, regardless of the consent of a fellow occupant, the majority ruled in that case. The majority, led by Justice Samuel A. Alito Jr., said police need not take the time to get a magistrate's approval before entering a home in such cases, but dissenters led by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg warned that the decision would erode protections against warrantless home searches. The court had previously held that such protections were the very core of the Fourth Amendment and its ban on unreasonable searches and seizures, reports the LA Times. According to the AP, Justice Samuel Alito wrote the court's 6-3 decision holding that an occupant may not object to a search when he is not at home. We therefore hold that an occupant who is absent due to a lawful detention or arrest stands in the same shoes as an occupant who is absent for any other reason, Alito said. In other words, you have no property rights, slave, and we can snoop through your personal belongings if we wish. Like I said, they'll do it by just detaining you or arresting you. Because the moment you do that, it says, we therefore hold that an occupant who is absent due to a lawful detention or arrest stands in the same shoes as an occupant who is absent for any other reason. Well, no. Because if you arrest them and remove them and then search the home, that's you're still abridging property rights. And I understand, believe me, I'm completely against domestic violence. I'm against violence. So always try to find the peaceful solution. Violence should always not be a choice. I don't believe that defensive actions are violent actions because they're actions against a violent action. They're a defensive action. But always try to find the peaceful route first. So, completely against domestic violence, but this does abridge the property rights because it puts them in a situation where if one person goes, yeah, you can enter, and the other person's like, no, you can't, you're arrested, you're guilty right off the bat, basically, because you refused. It says the implication for such a Stasi-esque interpretation of the Fourth Amendment are staggering. This can and will open the door to even more unscrupulous police behavior. They will only need to say that someone may be in danger, and now they are justified in ransacking your home. While this doesn't particularly allow for police to choose and enter any home they wish, it's nothing to be downplayed, especially since Justice Ginsburg, one of their own, even stated that this could lead to even more erosion of what is left of the Fourth Amendment. So we're going to see basically more attacks on our rights. This is really completely speeding up is how I see it. That's how I see it. It's speeding up. Another thing, drop some of my articles here. I have a clip here, originally from Daily Caller. It popped in on my Yahoo. Obama unveils National Obama Law Plan. Get my papers situated here. Okay. So originally the Daily Caller, but here we go.
President Barack Obama today introduced his plan for a progressive takeover of state and local policing. We have a great opportunity to really transform how we think about community law enforcement relations, he said Monday. We need to seize that opportunity. This is something that I'm going to stay very focused on in the months to come, Obama said as he touted a new interim report from his task force on 21st century policing. Obama also instructed his media allies to help with federalization of policing and to sideline critics of centralized policing rules. I expect our friends in the media to really focus on what's in this report and pay attention to it.
So you may be wondering what this is all about. Okay. Well, it's exactly what they're talking about. They want to centralize the police, federalize them, and this is very real stuff, and I don't think people understand what's really going on. They are basically taking this to a new level. And I had an article here, if I can find it. I'm having a problem finding it. I think I closed it. Thought I printed it off, and I didn't. So I'm going to have to try to find it or another one. Okay. I have a couple of them here. I have the one out of the Daily Caller. Since I played their clip, I'm going to go ahead and read this one. Out of InfoWars, Obama to expand federal control over state and local police. The plan released Monday entitled Task Force on 21st Century Policing advocates the federalization of police agencies across the country by forcing them to adhere to stricter requirements when they receive federal funding. And this is a big thing. Get federal funding definitely out of your county sheriff. Don't vote for a county sheriff that or county council that's going to take federal funding. And another thing that's going to really hurt too is the state. There's going to be certain states that, well, most states will be taking federal funding that'll end up causing them to adhere to things like this. But it says here, quote, the U.S. Department of Justice through the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, COPS, and the Office of Justice Programs should provide technical assistance and incentive funding to jurisdictions with small police agencies that take steps towards shared services, regional training, and consolidation, one of the numerous recommendations in the plan stated. Says 213 recommendation. The U.S. Department of Justice through the Office, I kind of already read that. It says here, half of all law enforcement agencies in the United States have fewer than 10 officers, and nearly three-quarters have fewer than 25 officers. Lawrence Sherman noted in his testimony that so many problems of organizational quality control are made worse by the tiny size of most local police agencies. Less than 1% of 17,985 U.S. police agencies meet the English minimum of 1,000 employees or more. These small forces often lack the resources for training and equipment accessible to larger departments. Well, you probably don't need tanks in a small community. Shouldn't need tanks in a big community. And are often prevented by municipal boundaries. Well, yeah. That's why there's boundaries. And local custom from combining forces with neighboring agencies, funding and technical assistance can give smaller agencies an incentive to share policies and practices and give them access to a wider variety of training, equipment, and communications technology than they could acquire on their own. Basically, if they federalize them, they'll break down the border. So when your sheriff gets federalized, now they can operate anywhere, is basically what this is saying. The plan also calls for the feds to collect more law enforcement data. There's a lack of uniformity in data collection throughout law enforcement, and only patchwork methods of near real-time information sharing exist. The plan stated in a section advocating national standards for law enforcement technologies. These problems are especially critical in light of the threats from terrorism and cybercrime. Do you think this is going to be what this is used for? Or do you see this being used for well, you got the small town with the small town sheriff that he doesn't record every interaction with people because sometimes he knows his community and he knows how to handle his people, and sometimes they get upset. And think of what the Andy Griffin show. Think of there's been time. Well, there's still small towns that operate that way. Even here in Indiana, there's some smaller towns that do have the sheriff, and they kind of operate, and it might be different to outsider, but a lot of times outsiders find it to be more relaxing. You don't feel like the police are out to just hunt people down. They like that small town. But think about this, the government wants to know everything that you do. Therefore, can't you see federalization of, well, we can basically live stream your dash cams and everything, and every interaction you have with people is recorded. So now people that, well, the sheriff knows they're not a threat. They're just, upset or said, well, he showed violent tendencies, and we're going to make sure he never has gun rights anymore. When the federal government gets hold of stuff, they always use it for the wrong reasons. Therefore, you don't want stuff like this federalized. But here it says inconsistent or non-existent standards also lead to isolated and fractured information systems that cannot effectively manage, store, analyze, or share their data with other systems. As a result, much information is lost or unavailable, which allows vital information to go unused and have no impact on crime reduction efforts. As one witness noted, the development of mature crime analysis and CompStat processes allow law enforcement to effectively develop policy and deploy resources for crime prevention. But there is a lack of uniformity in data collection throughout law enforcement, and only patchwork methods of near real-time information sharing exists. Oh, there it is, real-time information sharing. Like I said, live stream everything. Basically, a law enforcement NSA where it records everything. Even things that aren't considered crime by society, but the federal government can put against you. Every interaction with law enforcement will subjugate you to that. It says here these problems are especially critical in light of threats from terrorism and cybercrime. Oh yeah, okay, whatever. 3.1.1 action item. The federal government should support the development and delivery of training to help law enforcement agencies learn, acquire, and implement technology tools and tactics that are consistent with the best practices of 21st century policing. 3.1.2 action item. As part of the national standards, the issue of technology impacts on privacy concerns should be addressed in accordance with protections provided by constitutional law. Though all constitutional guidelines must be maintained in the performance of law enforcement duties, the legal framework, warrants, etc. should continue to protect law enforcement access to data. Well, not with what we were reading earlier, because the Supreme Court ruled in certain cases that the Constitution doesn't protect shit. It's going to be up to communities to protect their personal rights, even when you disagree with the personal beliefs or the way someone chooses to live their personal life. You have to stand up for everybody's rights. Otherwise, it'll just be a domino effect, and that's what we're seeing. Oops, excuse me there. Says here, President Obama said that most of the plan's recommendations are directed at the 1,800 law enforcement jurisdictions that are out there. I'm going to be asking Eric Holder and the Justice Department and his successor to go through all these recommendations so that we can start implementing them, he said Monday. I know that one area that's going to be of great interest is whether we can expand the COPS program that in the past has been very effective. No, it hasn't. Look at Chicago. That would be your COPS method. It hasn't been effective. Effective at abridging your rights, but really, crime rates don't go down because of this stuff, and it's been proven. Continues to be effective, but is largely underfunded. To see if we can get more incentives for local communities to apply some of the best practices and lessons that are embodied in this report. But a lot of our work is going to involve local police chiefs, local elected officials, states recognizing that the moment is now for us to make these changes. The plan follows the same strategy laid out by Common Core, expand federal power on the state and local level by adding more conditions to federal funding. Isn't that just great? This is what's coming down the pipeline. Obama's going, you thought he was going all in before. No, he's going all in now. I'm not going to say we're going to have some type of martial law, but let's look at the path we're on. We're setting up everything to allow for martial law. Every state and local is being taken over by accepting federal funding. The feds are helping, well, definitely Obama, by, oh, we'll just write executive order for everything I want to do. We'll get the FCC to regulate the internet. We'll get the Justice Department and cops to federalize through local funding. We have taken over your child's education through federal funding at the local levels. Obama is trying to ban, using the ATF, trying to ban one of the most common rounds for assault rifles in the U.S. And I hate using the word assault rifle, AR, though. They're really going all in right now. And we have to ask ourselves why. What's going on? Well, I've talked about this before. The death throes of a dying empire. And every time any type of empire starts losing its control, it seeks more control. So when the mechanisms that they put in place to control a population, the population then realizes what's happening, and they find their ways around all these mechanisms. Well, then government, to keep its control, will crack down on the essential freedoms that allow for a free person to act in a free way. And I'm sitting here looking at the front page of InfoWars after I read that article. It's an article from Thomas Jefferson, and this goes along with the guns and them cracking down on guns. And people that are willing to give up their guns thinking that government will keep them free. Those who hammer their guns into plowshares will plow those who do not. They will plow for those who do not. You become a slave when you give up your ability to protect yourself and give that ability to someone else and that authority. And when you see an empire in the death throes, they go after these essential things. They go after your essential ability to protect yourself. They'll go after your ability to be healthy. Because, well, they say vaccinations are good, but with what evidence comes from both sides, that's an opinion, not a fact. Because there is no consensus on it. It's a divided issue. So it's not based on facts. Because there's facts on both sides to back up the arguments. And why is that? Because, well, even though vaccinations do show the ability in some cases to help out, there's also other cases that show, well, the vaccinations, even when they can protect against something, cause other issues that can be more harmful. And there's no consensus. So they attack your gun rights, your ability to defend yourself. They attack your ability to stay healthy. They attack your food supply, which is another ability to stay healthy. They attack your property rights. and they attack your wealth. They are systematically putting you into assured slavery. Whether you believe it's socialism, Marxism, communism, fascism, they're all about controlling you and using you. And I don't want to downplay, though, the fact that right now we still have an ability to exercise. I'm still talking to you right now, even though I believe these abilities, the time for these abilities is starting to run out. We still have them, but we have to be prepared if society doesn't want to change its course for turmoil to come in the near future. This isn't only taking rights away, and I think the less knowledgeable people will be the first to give their rights away, or the brainwashed sect of people will be the first to give their rights away. They'll also be used as a tool to fight the other. They will be used as a divide and conquer, and they basically, I believe, would start a sort of civil war. And I think they would do this to gain order out of chaos. You know, when we look at the Civil War, let's not even look at the meaning or, you know, what you think the Civil War was over. Let's throw that all out the window. Let's just look at the strategic play of the Civil War. The South had General Lee, which was a very, very skilled general. But what they lacked was a lot of people. The North had a lot of people. Not only did the North have a lot of people, they were able to take Irish immigrants straight off a boat, put them in line to join the U.S. Army fighting the South so they could be citizens. So they were able to bring in outside people to put on the battlefield. Well, when we look at today, if there was to be some sort of civil war in the United States, well, the United States, the government that would be trying to take your guns away, trying to take all this away, who do you think is going to have their back? The United Nations. The United Nations that also agree that you should not have a gun. Only the government should have a gun because, you know, they want this new world order. They would be able to bring in NATO troops. So while your troops are stationed all around the world and dealing with that, they could easily cut off any information about what's going on in America by calling all their troops to the bases, saying that we're under some type of, high alert, not giving them access, controlled information coming into them, BS that might be coming over their feed to CNN or whatever. It would be pretty easy, definitely, with what they've done so far with the internet. FCC will be able to take over the internet, basically. This is a time, I think, for all liberty, freedom-minded people to be prepared for anything. And I don't think this is, exactly what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm looking at possibilities. And it just really, truly matters where a breaking point is for Americans to flip out, really. And it's one of those things. For some reason, I'm still optimistic that the American people, there are enough freedom, liberty-minded people out there that at a local level, there's a chance that we can fight this. But there's also this realization, too, that people in the administration and the federal government don't care. They don't care what constitutional law is. They don't care what state nullification is about. All they care about is grabbing control. And if you say no, they'll just say, well, I wrote an executive order. Now you got to. It's going to be when executive orders are not followed. When local governments start standing up to the feds more. And again, that could lead to a civil war, and I don't know it will. But you have to be aware of possibilities. Otherwise, you're guaranteed to fail. Okay, we are already at 7:21. I want to take this time to tell you about the UCY Amazon store. UCY has partnered with Amazon to bring you the same great deals that you can get directly from Amazon, but at the same time, UCY gets a kickback to keep broadcasts like this and all the other great ones here on UCY on the air and cover operating costs. So go check them out. If you go to ucy.tv, there is a UCY store tab. Just click on that tab. It'll take you directly to it, where UCY has put together one of the best collections of prepping gear, camping, and radiation gear that I've seen anywhere. And you can also get other great things from Amazon. But UCY has put this collection together to make it really easy if you're a prepper or camper or someone that's worried about radiation with the Fukushima going on. Check them out and you won't be disappointed. And again, you get the same great deals that you get from Amazon. At the same time, you're helping out UCY. And I also want to tell you about one thing that I do to try to diversify my wealth, and that's gold and silver. I do believe that there is a place in a catastrophe that gold and silver can play. And it's something that I see that's been used for thousands and thousands of years as a currency, no matter where you go around the world. Whether it be ancient Egypt, Aztecs, Mayans, first American settlers, gold has always been a value thing, so has silver. I get my gold and silver from Amagi Metals, and I truly believe in Amagi Metals, and they've been great to me, and I wanted to share that with you. So I partnered with Amagi Metals, and if you go to antityrannynews.com/metal, you can check out all the great deals they have. They've introduced a tier program for their gold. They've already had some of the best deals on gold I've seen around, and now they've entered where you can buy bulk and get even better deals. And I definitely urge people to diversify their investments, whether it be Bitcoin, seeds, bullets, or gold or silver. It's something that is, I think, essential for every prepper. So check them out again, antityrannynews.com/metal. And when you do that, you're also helping out this broadcast and antityrannynews.com to cover our operating costs. So check them out. I want to get into the internet. Since we have the FCC now attacking the internet, we really see it becoming a thing again. You know, we had CISPA, SOPA, but you know, this is regulating the internet, so somehow they think it's different. This from the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE. I keep dropping everything. Decentralization, why dumb networks are better. The smart choice and innovation at the edge. Every device employed to bolster individual freedom must have its chief purpose the impairment of the absoluteness of power. Eric Hoffer. In computer and communication networks, decentralization leads to faster innovation, greater openness, and lower costs. Decentralization creates the conditions for competition and diversity in the services the network provides. But how can you tell if a network is decentralized, and what makes it more likely to be decentralized? Network intelligence is the characteristic that differentiates centralized from decentralized networks, but in a way that is surprising and counterintuitive. Some networks are smart. They offer sophisticated services that can be delivered to very simple end-user devices on the edge of the network. Other networks are dumb. They offer only a very basic service and require that the end-user devices are intelligent. What's smart about dumb networks is that they push innovation to the edge, giving end users control over the pace and direction of innovation. Simplicity at the center allows for complexity at the edge, which fosters a vast decentralization of services. Surprisingly, then, dumb networks are the smart choice for innovation and freedom. The telephone network used to be a smart network supporting dumb devices, telephones. All the intelligence is in the telephone network, and all the service were contained in the telephone company's switching buildings. The telephone on the consumer's kitchen table was a little more than a speaker and a microphone. Even the most advanced touch-tone telephones were still pretty simple devices, depending entirely on the network services they could request through beeping their right tones. In a smart network like that, there is no room for innovation at the edge. Sure, you can make a phone look like a cheeseburger or a banana, but you can't change the services it offers. The services depend entirely on the central switches owned by the company. Centralized innovation means slow innovation. It also means innovation directed by the goals of a single company. As a result, anything that doesn't seem to fit the vision of the company that owns the network is rejected or even actively fought. In fact, until 1968, AT&T restricted the devices allowed on the network to a handful of approved devices. In 1968, in a landmark decision, the FCC ruled in favor of the Carter phone, an acoustic coupler device for connecting two-way radios to telephones, opening the door to any consumer device that didn't cause harm to the system. That ruling paved the way for the answering machine, the fax machine, and the modem. But even with the ability to connect smarter devices to the edge, it wasn't until the modem that innovation really accelerated. The modem represented a complete inversion of the architecture. All the intelligence was moved to the edge, and the phone network was used only as a underlying dumb network to carry the data. Did the telecommunications companies welcome this development? Of course not. They fought it for nearly a decade using regulation, lobbying, and legal threats against the new competition. In some countries, modem calls across international lines were automatically excuse me. Lost where I was here. Okay, it says were automatically disconnected to prevent competition in the lucrative long distance market. In the end, the internet won. Now almost the entire phone network runs as an app on top of the internet. The internet is a dumb network, which is its defining and most valuable feature. The Internet's protocol, Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, or TCP/IP, doesn't offer services. It doesn't make decisions about content. It doesn't distinguish between photos and text, video and audio. It doesn't have a list of approved applications. It doesn't even distinguish between client and server, user and host, or individual versus corporation. Every IP address is an equal peer. TCP/IP acts as an efficient pipeline, moving data from one point to another. Over time, it has had some minor adjustments to offer some differentiated quality of service capabilities, but other than that, it remains, for the most part, a dumb data pipeline. Almost all the intelligence is on the edge. All the services, all the applications are created on the edge device. Creating a new application does not involve changing the network. The web, voice, video, and social media were all created as applications on the edge without any need to modify the internet protocol, so the dumb network becomes a platform for independent innovation without permission at the edge. The result is an incredible range of innovation carried out at an even more incredible pace. People interested in even the tiniest of niche applications can create them on the edge. Applications that only have two participants only need two devices to support them, and they can run on the internet. Contrast to the telephone network, where a new service like caller ID had to be built and deployed on every company switch, incurring maintenance costs for every subscriber. So only the most popular, profitable, and widely used services got deployed. The financial services industry is built on top of many highly specialized and service-specific networks. Most of these are layered atop the internet, but they are architected as closed, centralized, and smart networks with limited intelligence on the edge. Take, for example, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, SWIFT, the International Wire Transfer Network. The consortium behind SWIFT has built a closed network for member banks that offers specific services, secure messages, mostly payment orders. Only banks can be members, and the network services are highly centralized. The SWIFT network is just one of dozens of single-purpose, tightly controlled, and closed networks offered to financial services companies such as banks, brokerage firms, and exchanges. All these networks mediate the services by interposing the service provider between the users, and they allow minimal innovation or differentiation at the edge. That is, they are smart networks serving mostly dumb devices. Bitcoin is the internet of money. It offers a basic dumb network that connects peers from anywhere in the world. The Bitcoin network itself does not define any financial services or applications. It doesn't require membership, registration, or identification. It doesn't control the types of devices or applications that can live on its edge. Bitcoin offers one service, securely timestamped scripted transactions. Everything else is built on the edge devices as an application. Bitcoin allows any application to be developed independently without permission on the edge of the network. A developer can create a new application using the transactional service as a platform and deploy it on any device. Even niche applications with few users, applications never envisioned by the Bitcoin protocol creator, can be built and deployed. Almost any network architecture can be inverted. You can build a closed network on top of an open network, or vice versa, although it is easier to centralize than to decentralize. The modem inverted the telephone network, giving us the internet. The banks have built closed network systems on top of the decentralized internet. Now, Bitcoin provides an open network platform for financial services on top of the open and decentralized internet. The financial services built on top of Bitcoin are themselves open because they are not services delivered by the network. They are apps running on top of the network. This arrangement opens a market for applications, putting the end user in a position of power to choose the right application without restrictions. What happens when an industry transitions from using one or more smart and centralized networks to using a common decentralized, open, and dumb network, a tsunami of innovation. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but you can read the rest of it at Foundation for Economic Education. Now, what I fear with the FCC is that they're going to basically take the internet, route it through something that makes it a smart network. And then they will have to have you install something to dumb down your devices to be able to connect. That way they can censor. And that kind of brings me, what time are we at? Okay, we're still good. That kind of takes me to my next article, this one out at trueactivist.com. SpaceX is making a microsatellite internet network to decentralize the web. SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk has announced that the company is currently developing a microsatellite network that will work to bring cheap and unrestricted internet access to the world. He said on his Twitter page this week that they are in the early stages of development on the project and that more details will be coming in the following months. Responding to a comment about the cost of the service, Musk said that the internet service would be unfettered, certainly, and at very low cost. The announcement comes in the midst of heavy debates surrounding the cost and regulation of internet services. Musk's announcement provides a solution that offers both cheap and unregulated internet, something that does not seem possible within the current internet paradigm. SpaceX is just one of many organizations who are developing creative solutions to the problems caused by internet centralization, along with mega corporations like SpaceX, Google, and Facebook. Independent researchers are also working on solutions such as mesh networks and Wi-Fi sharing systems. And again, that was from trueactivist.com. So you can go check that article out. And I think coming up with alternative ways to create these networks, and I think that when we find a better system, I think we will completely knock down any type of attempt of regulation and censorship. Because I really think that's where we're going. Now, with this Netanyahu talking to Congress, Obama making deals with Iran, I'm going to play something here from AMTV real quick and comment on it right after. I want to get this going before we get to the end of the broadcast, so let me go ahead and cue this up.
One issue that we will be discussing is Iran, and obviously that's been a topic of great interest today. So let me just make a couple of comments on that. I did not have a chance to watch Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. I was on a video conference with our European partners with respect to Ukraine. I did have a chance to take a look at the transcript, and as far as I can tell, there was nothing new. The Prime Minister, I think, appropriately pointed out that the bond between the United States and America is unbreakable, and on that point I thoroughly agree. He also pointed out that Iran has been a dangerous regime and continues to engage in activities that are contrary to the interests of the United States, to Israel, and to the region. And on that, we agree. He also pointed out the fact that Iran has repeatedly threatened Israel and engaged in the most venomous of anti-Semitic statements. And no one can dispute that. But on the core issue, which is how do we prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, which would make it far more dangerous and would give it scope for even greater action in the region, the Prime Minister didn't offer any viable alternatives. So the bottom line is this. We don't yet have a deal. It may be that Iran cannot say yes to a good deal. I have repeatedly said that I would rather have no deal than a bad deal. But if we're successful negotiating, then in fact this will be the best deal possible to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Nothing else comes close. Sanctions won't do it. Even military action would not be as successful as the deal that we have put forward. What I'm focused on right now is solving this problem. I'm not focused on the politics of it. I'm not focused on the theater of it. And my strong suggestion would be that members of Congress, as they evaluate it, stay similarly focused.
Check out our sponsor, ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com, the leading innovator in water filtration systems. Get all of your water filters at ProPureUSA.com. Click the link below right now. Hey, everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 2015. And what's really going on with these nuke talks with Iran? Because all of it's a little bit confusing. We have Obama on one side who's negotiating with Iran, a known enemy of the United States and our allies, like Israel, trying and attempting to strike a deal with the Ayatollahs, giving them a 10-year timeline that as long as they're good, you know, they play by the rules, that they can have access to nuclear technology. He's advising the American people that this is the best alternative because they're going to build a nuke anyway. And so this is how the U.S. accomplishes their goal of not destroying the world and leading the American people into World War III. On the flip side, we have Benjamin Netanyahu bypassing the President of the United States, speaking outright and addressing Congress yesterday in a speech filled with biblical references and a lot of political rhetoric, to the applause of all the Democratic and Republican lemmings. In fact, the only character in the crew that wasn't essentially sucking off Benjamin Netanyahu during a speech yesterday was Rand Paul, who was still clapping and acknowledging the speech, but it was sitting down and had a disturbed look on his face. I encourage you to take a look. It was kind of interesting. So what's really going on here? What's the real truth? Does the United States and is Israel, are they at odds? Do they just simply hate each other? Or is there something more to this? You see, if you dig a little deeper, folks, you'll understand that this is kind of theater, just like Obama said it was. And Obama and Bibi don't really like each other. It's probably why it's easy to play into this theater. But they're actually both still on the same team. It's what they call an old-fashioned jeweler's war, you know, kind of like good cop and bad cop, where one pretends to be the good guy, that's the United States, one pretends to be the bad guy, that's Benjamin Netanyahu, although they really have the same agenda. They're really on the same team. You see, the United States, Israel, and the West are positioning for war. They're positioning for a very serious war with Iran. And the United States needs to claim plausible deniability when, not if, but when Israel appears to unilaterally strike Iran. For God knows what reason. I mean, they'll just create it out of thin air. It'll be like WMDs under George W. Bush. Total bullshit, total lie, total scam. Maybe they'll blow up a city in the Middle East. Maybe ISIS will pose a greater threat. They'll create some kind of reason and some kind of boogeyman. And it will lead and justify a unilateral strike courtesy of Israel. And you see, the United States can claim through these theatrics and this theater that they didn't support the airstrikes. Note that Obama actually said recently, leading up to the speech with Bibi addressing Congress, that he had threatened to shoot Israeli jets out of the sky if Israel was to take unilateral action against Iran. You see, they're setting the stage here. So when Israel attacks Iran, for God knows what reason, they create out of thin air to serve their interests, the U.S. of A. can claim plausible deniability. And they can have their cake and eat it too, because again, we're on the same team. It positions the United States as the good guy in the eyes of the world, not the tyrant, not the warmonger. It positions Israel acting in self-defense against the wishes of the United States of America. And it plays perfectly into the chess moves leading to war. For those of you with a biblical reference, you'll also note that this plays directly into biblical prophecy. And I'm not even giving you the biblical perspective. It's only what is actually objectively happening right now. You know, when was it that a leader outside of Israel could come in and fly into Washington, D.C., and have Republican and Democratic lemmings on their feet addressing our political system and our House of Congress in the United States? What other country do we allow to do that? You know, this theater, all these biblical references, theatrics, really not providing, I think Obama's kind of right here, really not providing a real solution. Just juxtaposing this war of good versus evil. And of course, the U.S. is always good. Everybody else, Israel's always good. Everybody else is evil. ISIS, evil. Osama bin Laden, evil. Chris Kyle, a hero. That's how we position things here in the United States of America. We create our enemy. We manufacture the boogeyman, whether or not it's all Al-Qaeda or it's ISIS or ISIL, and then we demonize the enemy. We demonize that opposes the West and our interests here in the United States and abroad. So you see, all of this is just a smoke and mirrors campaign. It's a jeweler's war. It's theater, just like Obama says and has indicated that it is. You see, we're going to war with Iran, whether or not you like it or not. It's one of the reasons why we've had sanctions on Iran. We've been pressuring their economy. It's why we launched rogue internet viruses like Stuxnet to destroy their nuclear capabilities. Obama and Bibi, although they actually in real life do hate each other, are playing for the same team.
They're serving up the same agenda and the same program. And it's all leading to war. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere. Make it viral, hard-hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.
Okay, AMTV on YouTube. Check them out. Things like this, we understand that, you know, there's just tension throughout the world right now, and it's really coming to a boiling point, and we have the U.S. and all the other countries that are lying. They're just playing these baits and switches, and other countries are getting fed up with it. The citizens of these countries are getting fed up with it, and it seems like they are working to start some type of war that will bring people back in line. And people are like, well, it's just not going to happen the way they want because we have the internet and people can find out all this information. And I agree to a point. The point that I disagree is when we get to the point of, well, when we have these monopolies that we've helped create, but now are basically being turned into a utility, so a regulated monopoly instead of a, you know, there's types of monopolies that are naturally created. Google was able to be successful because of their innovation. But in the process, through that innovation, they've teamed up basically with governments. Because of that innovation, governments seeked it. And of course, Google caved. But Google caved for one reason. In return for being able to take our innovation and allow you to use it for your benefits as a government, then you have to help us keep our monopoly. In a free market, the people, like most of us, look at Google and go, Google's becoming evil, you know, we could boycott them. Well, that's going to be really hard. One, if the FCC basically starts regulating it, saying other search engines aren't legit. Google is considered legit. Bing will be considered legit, but other ones will be considered illegit if they don't fold to what the government wants. So basically, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, while us as the users won't have a option anymore. Kind of like in a lot of places, if you don't want satellite, you want regular ground cable television, paid television. Well, you're only going to have one company offering it, more than likely. It's going to be like your cable services. It's one of those things that you'll have choices up to a certain point. You got satellite choices. You have Dish, and you have Direct, or you have. If you live in the city, you have Comcast. If you live outside the city, you have another company. Or telephone companies don't usually have a whole bunch of choice, only in long distance. Google definitely has a monopoly, and I think with FCC, they're going to continue to keep their monopoly, and they've been working with other governments to keep their monopoly. And I have one here out of we're running close on time, but this one's out of ksl.com. This looks like it's out of Utah. Local. Science and Tech, the truth according to Google. London, CNN Money. It must be true. I found it on the internet. Naive? Maybe. After all, cyberspace has its fair share of myths. Now, Google may have found a way to clean house, or at least throw the trash in the basement. The company is figuring out how to rank websites by the veracity of their content. The more truthful the page, the higher up it will appear in search results. Google currently sorts search results based on criteria such as number of links pointing at the website, the amount of time users spend on it, as well as the prominence of its social media profile. The algorithm named PageRank after Google co-founder Larry Page is supposed to rank websites based on their reputation. But a team of Google engineers and research scientists may have, or say the current system mainly reflects the popularity of a website, which may tell users little about its truthfulness. Gossip websites are a good example. According to Google, the Google team, while immensely popular, they are not generally considered very reliable. To fix the problem, Google has to come up with a new truth-seeking algorithm, describing it in a research paper first reported by New Scientist. So how would it work? The new algorithm draws on Google's Knowledge Vault, a collection of 2.8 billion facts extracted from the internet. By checking pages against the database and cross-reference related facts, the research team believes the algorithm could assign each page a truth score. Pages with a high proportion of false claims would be bumped down in the search results. Google said the new algorithm is in the research stage. The scientists still need to figure out plenty of issues before it can be used, including ensuring the system appropriately deals with new facts on a topic. Now, who sees a problem with that? Who sees a problem with that? I see a big problem. Who's choosing what facts are? Just like in the vaccine, what the pharmaceutical companies and the journals that, well, get a lot of their financing from pharmaceutical companies that tell the doctors what to believe, will tell you vaccines are great. And then there's other doctors that have been basically kicked out of hospitals or shunned by the medical community for coming out and saying, well, from what I'm seeing, what we're being told isn't true. And, oh, here's some facts that show that it was going down before vaccines were introduced, and vaccines did not help the decline of these diseases. Oh, well, you know, we're finding links between autism, while the organizations like Autism Speaks that gets funding from Bill Melinda Gates Foundation that also is the funding people of a lot of vaccine programs are going to tell you that, oh, there's no link between autism and vaccines. Well, yeah, because if you said there was, we could have some issues with your funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned here on UCY.tv.